and start recording.
Uh,
Um, that should have done the trick. If not, all right, you're
uh,
live.
we're being
Long
streamed to the
press.
interwebs.
Yep. All right.
Brett.
So,
All right, cool.
we're live. Everybody can see our beautiful faces. So, I'll start. I'm Dakota Rowe. I'm a University of Central Arkansas music education major with a focus in trumpet playing. And back to you.
Preston.
Okay, I'm Preston. I'm a sophomore. I'm technically a junior hour-wise, but I'll just say second year student at the University of Central Arkansas. I'm a music ed major. Um, yeah.
All right, cool. My name is Jake Hodges. I go to Arkansas Tech University. I'm the odd one out. I'm also an instrumental music ed major, and I also play the trumpet. And I, up until like 2 weeks ago, I was a BA, but apparently that's kind of just not a good degree course at. So I've now switched to instrumental music education, and here we are. So let's just get into it, shall we?
Yeah. So, we just wrapped up. Some of us our first semester as a music major. Some of us our third semester. So, what are some of your thoughts? How was your first experiences, Jake?
Man, it was fun for sure. It was a really nice change of pace coming to this as opposed to high school. Both for the music is a lot different, and the way that you approach the music is a lot different. But the people I think were the most refreshing part for me. I was, I noticed in high school that a lot of times it just kind of seemed like some people just didn't want to be there, and that really kind of like bummed me out a lot, and it would frustrate me because it was like there was so much potential, but it never felt like we could get to the point that we were capable of. But once I got like into college, if you work hard, you can guarantee that everyone else is working hard too.
Right.
And that's a really nice change. Really, I think the only negative thing is that it's just hard being the new guy, especially coming in and like I came into tech and like I practiced a ton for like the jazz audition and I made lead, and I feel like that wasn't really something that people liked at first. Now it's totally cool, and I think that people are on board with it. But I think people didn't really want to, because like in a big band, the band needs to listen to the lead trumpet, and I feel like a lot of people kind of didn't want to listen to me because I was the new guy around, and they felt like they needed to be listening to someone who had more experience, quote unquote.
Hmm.
But that was my only real negative experience. It's been pretty great other than that.
So, for those that are watching, we're actually all lead trumpet players of some degree, and so um, we're gonna probably mostly be talking about lead stuff. But I wanted to just go ahead and say that I'm mostly in line with Jake, too. I kind of came into school and hit the ground running. I made a pretty high ensemble and split lead with Preston here in the jazz band, which is admirable for a freshman student. At least I'd hope so. And so it feels out of place almost to be there. But like you said, it's such a fresh and welcoming change from high school that I'm all for it, even during times like this pandemic and such. So Preston, you're second year student. How have you been handling
hmm
it?
it's definitely different. Like first semester last year, fall semester last year, it was like a honeymoon period. It was like you get there and it's a new experience, and I was living 45 minutes from home, which isn't that far, but it's away from home. Living on campus, it was big, and it was all these new people and all these new experiences. This huge marching band, and all these ensembles, and being in wind ensemble as a freshman, and like there was a honeymoon period. And but this fall, like it, I mean, it was hard. It was rough. I mean, it was hard. There was definitely no honeymoon period. Started my second full year with I was only in 15 hours, but it was like 12 classes or something. And like, I mean, that's life as a music major. But um, ended up getting all A's, which is great. I feel like definitely the professors are a little merciful this semester with all the COVID and stuff, but it was hard. Like there were some times like this semester I didn't know if I was gonna make it. Like it was real rough. It was like endless assignments, but I'm glad I did it. And it was just, yeah, like I said, like the honeymoon period is gone by this point. It's like I've established myself here, and I feel like I don't have to prove. I didn't have to like prove myself, I guess, as much at this point, which is kind of a blessing and a curse, because fall semester last year, man, I was working my butt off. I was practicing like around 2 hours every day. I was really determined. And this semester, I just didn't have that drive. It felt like the whole semester I was just kind of um, like trying to play catch up the whole time. Like I sort of stumbled on my way out of the gate, and I was never able to like really hit my stride. So I didn't like improve as much on like trumpet playing as much as I did probably last year. I made some strides, some improvements, thanks to Dr. Allhorn, but like I didn't improve as much as I could have, and I think part of that is also being in the same environment. Because like last fall, it was like a new environment. It's a lot more serious, and it's more, I guess, you really develop very quickly, because you're in this new environment, taking it more seriously. You're treated like a young professional, and you're expected to act like a professional. And so, there's that higher level, but it's like now I understand it and I'm part of the sort of culture. So it was kind of not good for me because I didn't continue to push myself. So that is something that I'm definitely going to work on for next semester. So, yeah.
Something you said that reminded me. Yeah, Dr. Allhorn, our professor at UCA, describes us as young professionals. So we kind of like want to by default hold ourselves to a higher standard because that's what he thinks of us. So I always loved how he described us as professionals just with little experience.
Yeah, I think one of the few things that helped me stay really motivated with COVID was like thinking about things on a grander scope than where we currently are. Because a lot of times we get bogged down like in competition, and it's healthy. It's not a bad thing. We're competitive with the person who's one chair above us, and we're trying to stay ahead of the person who's one chair below us. Right? We get bogged down in that. But I help. Well, I kind of found, and it was some advice that I got from a friend of mine, that that's not the be all end all of our playing. We're competing with people way beyond that. We need to be thinking about how we're going to compete for jobs with people like Wayne Bergeron out there, and like how we're going to get better and push ourselves so that we're not just comfortable at our schools and we're comfortable once we leave and try to find gigs. And that really helps me because of course I have really stiff competition here at Tech. There's lots of crazy players down here, but I try not to think so much about that. because the cards there will fall as they may, and I can't worry about who's practicing what, especially within the studio, because then it gets really unhealthy if I try to be somebody else. But what I can worry about is what I'm preparing myself for when they're gone. Once they graduate, once I graduate, I'm no longer competing with these guys. And I'm still going to be competing with those professionals that are out there taking the gigs.
Right.
And that helped me like stay on my game, even though this semester, with we had no performances. Our rehearsals were very strange. Like we never rehearsed with the marching band. We only rehearsed with sectionals. And then we split into these little small mini band. And so, a group of 30, and then the jazz ensemble had to meet outside, socially distanced. And it's weird. Like it was not like a good semester when it comes to trying to play. So it was hard for me to find the motivation to get better because I didn't feel like I was working towards anything. Of course, we had hard music. Like when we got in jazz ensemble and he handed out stuff like Malagueña, and I was like, whoa. But, it still was just hard to practice because I was like, we're not going to play this for anybody. We're just playing it.
Right.
But then I thought like, well, I may graduate and get a gig and have to play Malagueña. And if I get that gig, I need to not mess it up. Yeah. So like, that was the way I kind of thought. And it kept me on my toes a lot this semester for sure.
And that's the thing. I feel like what you were saying is, we're not really trying to worry about competing because at the end of the road, when we graduate, we're going to be better musicians regardless, as long as, we strive to do so and get our accomplishments and goals and make it there.
Yeah, and those people that are better than, people at Tech that I know are just miles better than I am, I'm not like, I don't have any contempt for that. Like, that's a resource for me, Like, the fact that they're better than me means that I can learn something from them.
Yeah, there's always something to be learned. Always some experience to be gained.
They're like, if I look at people ahead of me, I'm like, okay, that person can do this really well. I want to ask them how they do that. And I can learn from them. And they're resources because, we are learning. We're working on a degree. This isn't really a professional, we're young professionals, but this is still like a university experience. I'm not competing with them for a job. Like
it's cool.
if I don't make a good chair in wind ensemble or something, it's not the end of the world. I'm still going to be in the studio. I'm still going to be in the music department. But, it only gets really competitive once you get out into the real world. And, only one person gets the job. But while we're learning, I think it's good to just take the resources that you have in front of you, like other students and professors, and just, pick their minds. Try to find a way to learn from the people that are just nuts.
Okay, well, so I guess that wraps up like how our semester has been. Our first semester of COVID. We've got another long one ahead of us. Hopefully COVID's coming to an end soon. So we're all leaned towards jazz. So what are some like new artists that y'all have come across in the past pandemic times?
Some new artists.
Some
Okay.
new tunes, some new like anything. I don't know, just like some new music you've encountered.
Yeah.
That's
It's not.
helped you get through it.
Yeah, yeah. One album. It's like that. Like really, really helped me. Like sort of. It's like style. Playing lead trumpet. You have to have really great style. Like Wayne Bergeron always says, high notes without style is just a party trick. So that was something I really wanted to work on over the summer, coronacation, quarantine, whatever you want to call it. And so I was having some difficulty, like, sort of understanding it, comprehending it. Like I was thinking of here, but it's more like it just happens, like with style, you just sort of feel it, you understand it, especially in jazz. Like you feel like what notes get the inflection, like the upbeats and swing do ba, you know what I mean? But I didn't really understand that at the time. I thought it was something you just think about. It was something, an album that like really instilled the sense of style for me, like particularly in the swing style, but like in just jazz in general, was Harry Connick Jr.'s Blue Light Red Light album with Roger Ingram. Starts out on that song, do 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 do, and he hits that big double D at the very beginning. It's fantastic, and yeah, it's kind of a poppy album. Like it's not like a jazz, it's not jazz standards or anything, but like listening to Roger Ingram in this album, like I listened to that album in the hundreds of times, like, and it's like just listening to Roger Ingram play, like, and just play with such style and what I mean, in tone, and like that really was so influential to me. And it's like I was just listening to it and I was trying to develop style, but I couldn't do it. And then by the time we get to August, it's like it just clicked. I was like, oh, this is it. I understand it now. Like, I've been listening to this for like 5 months, and then now I get it. I understand it. I can feel it. I can, when I see the music on the page before I even play it or hear it, it's like, okay, it needs to sound like this, And that was incredibly beneficial to me. So, Harry Connick Jr.'s Blue Light Red Light album, that was big for me.
So I found this. Well, one of my friends who's a tuba major told me about a YouTuber called Insane in the Rain. He's a saxophone guy, and what he does is he takes like video game scores and transcribes them and makes it. It's really cool. There's one particular song which is a version of Thomas the Tank Engine. We all know and love him from our childhood, but I'm not really, I'm a trumpet player, so like saxophone's kind of mysterious for me. But since he is a saxophone person, I've been able to like find a new found appreciation for other instruments in the world of jazz and music in general. And so saxophone's starting to warm up to me, and I'm mentioning that because like if I want to be a good musician, I have to be well rounded. So I can't just only be a trumpet player. I want to be a musician. So I think listening to other people that play different instruments has helped me learn and grow.
Yeah, dude, for sure. Like I know I listen to a lot of, when you listen to some like trumpet music, like you go back to like the classics, like, Maynard Ferguson, Doc Severinsen, you listen to that, and a lot of times it's kind of like ingrained in us that we listen to the trumpet.
Yeah.
But once you like start appreciating what else is going on in that music, it's like, wow. Like if you listen to MacArthur Park, like, dude, that tenor sax solo in the middle of it is just gorgeous. It's like, wow, that's just such a gem. And a lot of like Maynard's, when he went through that weird phase where it was like weird disco reggae stuff, like Primal Scream and Conquistador, dude, like on the theme from Star Trek, like that flute solo in the middle of it is just like, whoa. And Pagliacci, like that weird, like talking flute, just doesn't make sense, but it's like, it's awesome. And it's like, once I started to like really hone in on the stuff that I'd never really paid attention to before, because I was like, well, he's about to play a triple G. Like, once I started paying attention to the other stuff, it was like, wow, this music has so much more depth than I previously thought it did.
Yeah.
And dude, like going off what Preston said, like just learning from style, I think I like fell into that. I think everybody fell into that when you decided that you wanted to learn like how to play lead. I think everyone just kind of thought, okay, to be a lead player, I just got to have high notes and the rest will happen. But it's like, that's not your job. Like half the time, if you're playing lead, sometimes you just don't even play high. Like, we play some stuff here at Tech that's like, they're kind of like filler tunes that we just play to like add time to our concert and kind of chop breaks and stuff. But the style is so crazy. It's like super important. And like learning the difference between like a samba and a rumba, it's like that's important. You need to know that stuff because you might get kicked off a gig if you don't. And I always go back, well, first of all, I think that's like it's a learned skill that becomes a reflexive like action. You listen to blue light, red light, like in the hundreds of times. And now like you may not know that you said like you didn't know that you could do it. And then it's you. And it's like because once you're in the moment and it's happening, it's like you just have this reflex that just clicks on and you're like, okay, this is what I got to do. And it just like falls into place and makes more sense. And that's exactly what happened to me. Like going back and listening to like the classics, like Chairman of the Board from Count Basie. Like I've probably listened to that album, like I kid you not, man, probably like 600 times. I love that album. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. It doesn't have all the screamy business on it, but it's awesome. The style is just crazy. Like when they come in and they're playing Moten Swing, and it's just like, it's real chill and laid back, but it's like that style is so hard to nail. And it's stuff like HRH, Her Royal Highness, like the trombone solo on that is like, how is he making the sounds that he's making? It's mind-boggling. Some of the stuff that you can find once you start to like reach out into new realms that aren't, specific to you. Like looking out actively, trying to listen to, Charlie Parker or Herbie Hancock. And like, no, there's not going to be any crazy screaming trumpet, but like you can learn a lot from that about what you can do to make yourself better. Yeah. Like, if you listen to some like hard bop stuff from Charlie Parker, like you'll pick up some licks. You'll learn more about the bebop style. And if you listen to like Herbie Hancock, you'll learn about weird chord extensions that don't make sense that work. And dude, like new artists, I don't know if you guys listen to him a bunch. I love Jacob Collier. Like I freaking love that guy. Everything he's put out is always just crazy to me. Like, when you go way back and you're listening to like Georgia on My Mind and Danny Boy, and it's like jazz and folk music. And then you get to like one of his newest albums where it's got like pop on it and like Daniel Caesar's on the album. And it's just like, I guess he decided he wanted to be a pop artist. And he's really good at it. But you can hear the influences of jazz. Like when you listen, there's All I Need, one of his songs. It's got this weird lick in it. It's like a bebop lick. It's like a bebop turnaround of some kind in the middle of a pop song. And, me and other jazz guys that listen to it, of course, are like, that had a little bit of stank to it. That was pretty cool. But I mean, it's cool that he's bringing that into the modern realm of music, because people probably think that's cool without knowing that that's like something you would do in jazz. So he's teaching people to like jazz without using jazz, and that's sick.
The geniuses of our times.
Right. Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, something I've been doing recently since semester is coming to a close is I've been transcribing a lot of music and writing music in general. And so I'm like a treble leaning person, so I always focus on the higher range stuff. But when you're like trying to, get down there low and dirty and try to pick out those low notes, you're like, oh, that fits really well. It's kind of neat. And so like you just come to appreciate the nuances and little flicks and other things other than the high notes of trumpets. I'm done.
Dude, have you ever tried to like transcribe a big band chart?
Not yet.
Dude, that'll be like your brain will just expand. Like
I'm
because
going to eventually.
you'll understand things that like never really clicked. Like I know I'm working on a transcription of, well, first of all, if you haven't heard this chart, you need to go listen to it like right now. But I'm working on a transcription of "This Is an Orchestra" by Stan Kenton.
I love Stan
It's
Kenton.
like I think probably the only copy of that is like in his estate collecting dust. It's just you cannot find it anywhere. It's like 11 minutes long, and it just features every member of the band playing a solo,
All region
and it's
jazz.
awesome. And Maynard Ferguson's on it because that's when Maynard Ferguson was playing in Stan Kenton's orchestra. I think it was called like the Kenton's Innovations Orchestra or something like that. And you know, Maynard Ferguson, dude, at the end of that chart, it's nuts. Like I think that's my favorite Maynard Ferguson solo of all time on that album. What's that song specifically, that chart?
If you guys want to, if anybody watching's like interested, we could make like a list of the charts and tunes we talk about. That way, like, not only us three can take a look at them, but other people if they want to watch. Just thought of that. I thought it'd be cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. Because some of this stuff, dude, is like revolutionary. Like that chart never been done before, and it's like it's almost like spoken word music. You know, when you listen to it, and it's like poetry, but he's just talking, and he's making jokes, and it's really funny. He's like, you know, like, they call me the old man. They look for me. They look to me for like advice. Blah 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 blah. Oh yeah, and money. And it's just like such a like offhand comment, and it's funny. And but I'm trying to transcribe that, and dude, you learn so much because like, you know, you go through and you're like transcribing the bass line. That's what I usually start with, and then you like see the relationship between that and the rest of the ensemble. And for some reason, like when I hear it, my brain connects it differently than when I see it. And when I can see it in front of me, it's like, oh, that's why it sounds like that. Or that's why he did this. That's why he wrote it this way.
Yeah.
And like you can find the moments of dissonance and how they line up with the context of the chart. And you're just like, oh, this is cool. Like that's genius. So that's something fun to do.
There's one piece you've probably heard of it. It's called Moanin', and it's particularly wild in certain spots where it just sounds like a cluster of random instruments playing random notes. So I've been wondering, like, if I were to transcribe that, like, what could you find out from like different parts of that song? Because it gets crazy. Like it's something else.
Dude, like, I don't know. For the most part, I've always found like in different things I've listened to, whenever it just sounds like chaos, I've found that when I write it down and simplify it, it's always some kind of organization. There's something going on there. It sounds crazy, but it's supposed to sound crazy.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in a very specific way. And you like break the code. I know I listen to there's an album. This is a really good album. It's called Tailor Made. It's from Bobby Watson. He went to Japan. I think he's playing in Tokyo, and he's got this tailor-made big band of great like Japanese jazz artists, and they're playing a lot of stuff from like the Jazz Messengers. They're like combo charts that were written out and orchestrated for big band, and it's really cool. And like on Miss BC, Bobby Watson plays a killer solo. Like it's nuts. It blew my mind first time I heard it. But a lot of the times, like the endings of those charts, everyone's just going and doing something funky. But then they like find a way to resolve that into not chaos. And it's like, that was cool. Because they resolve there, and there's a chart called In Case You Missed It, that everyone's just soloing, and it's just big, loud, crazy. Barry Sax is playing like as low as he possibly can. Lead trumpet's playing like as high as he possibly can. And you just have everything in between, right? But then at the end, they resolve it by everyone gets quieter, and they resolve to these really funky chords. And then it picks back up into the chorus, and he like says everybody's name that's in the and it's like, what? How did you do that? Like, how did you control that? Like, that was out of control. Like that was seemingly like a mess.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we're in this really cool moment. How did we get from that to this? And I mean, I'm not going to try to transcribe that because there's too much going on, man. Like,
You'd be spending the entire semester just
yeah.
every waking
That's
hour.
dude. That's how This Is an Orchestra has been. I started working on it in July. And I'm still not done. It's like crazy, but I mean, it is long, so I guess I'll
Yeah.
give myself a little credit. But I'm almost finished. But yeah, I mean, work with it, dude. You'll learn, like, just learning the relationships is what was cool for me. So, that's something to play around with because transcribing solos is good for helping you learn unique things on your instrument. And that's a really, really important thing to do, especially when you're trying to learn like how to play jazz, how to improvise. But
Yeah.
understanding the bigger picture is something that's also really important. So, going in, dabbling with some even combo stuff to start smaller, to understand the relationship between each instrument is something important that goes beyond the scope of your own playing. But I don't know. What's next on the docket?
Um. Well, I don't know. Why don't we hear you from you, Preston? Toss the bone in your
Okay.
direction.
What do you want me to talk about? What do you want me to talk about?
I don't know.
Transcriptions?
Well, let's talk. Let's transition into something like we're slowly. I mean, me and you, I know, are slowly discovering some more like lead trumpet gear, and I know me and you have both been trying out like a lot of mouthpieces. So like, why don't you tell us about how your process has been going? I know you found one recently that you've kind of like settled into.
Yeah. So I've always like, what am I trying to say? Um, my first lead mouthpiece was Jake gave it to me for a little bit of time, and it was the Bobby Shoe Yamaha. And I remember when I first played on it, I couldn't make a sound. It was like, because I've been playing on a 3C or a 5C or whatever my whole life. And then Jake is like, just calm down, don't overblow, close the aperture. And I do that, and it's like I play like a C in the staff, and it's like quadruple F or something in the band room, and he's like, shut up, stop. And then it was like it was so easy, and so that sort of started. And that was, I think, my junior year of high school. Jake was a little 10th grader at the time, and that started my journey, my lead mouthpiece journey. But I played on that first semester, or I played that on that my senior year, and I mean it got the job done. I wasn't really in the lead playing, but I mean it did the job for marching band and basketball band and stuff. And then my freshman year of last fall, I was still playing on it for marching band, but I was like marching band rehearsals at UCA. They're 2 hours Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we have a 2 hour rehearsal on Saturday morning, and then a rehearsal. Or not, we have if it's a game day, we'll have a 2 hour rehearsal on Saturday morning, and then the game, of course. So like that's a long time of playing. And the problem I was having is since I was using like a ton of pressure at the time, and I was playing on my beginner trumpet, which is the most resistance ever and has no resonance to it at all. I was having problems with it. And so, like, it was pretty small for me, and it didn't really have much of a bite to it, to the cup. And so my lips would swell, and then I'd have trouble playing. That was partly my fault, just jamming the horn into my face, and I didn't really know how to do it. But I had discovered my freshman year these Bach commercial mouthpieces, which are like beginner lead mouthpieces. And so I ordered one freshman year, last year fall, and I played on a 3S for a while, which it was much bigger. It was a huge diameter.
I
It was
have your 3S over here.
yeah, yeah. fairly shallow. It was just, and it felt good to play. And eventually I warmed up to it. And that's what I played on for about 3 quarters of last school year. I played on that. I played lead on that last semester or spring of this last school year. And then I wanted to change. Like I was having some problems with it. It's big. It's a little too big for like it's a commercial mouthpiece, so it's like it's kind of meant for you to be able to do anything on it. Like if you need to play classical, like it's not really designed to play like probably above a double G. Like it's meant so that you can get that good sizzle above the staff. Up to like probably a double G. I was just having problems with it, and it was just a little too big, and so this past semester I did a lot of research, and I wanted to get something that was like with a rim that was just like a few millimeter, like 2 or 3 millimeters diameter smaller, and then like a little bit shallower of a cup. And so I did a lot of research, and I got the Denniswick 4E, and that's what I've been playing on since September, I think. And I mean, it was like immediate improvement. Easier to play. It really like these are not meant to like you shouldn't work on range with these, but I feel like it can be a way for you to like discover what notes feel like, and then you can work on it with your larger mouthpiece. And so this, the shallower cup allowed me to play really easily above a double G. And mix that with like just much better trumpet playing in general, like much more relaxed. And I started working with Dr. Allhorn this semester on like playing above the staff, really quietly, like being able to play in the upper register quietly and with a good soft sound on a normal mouthpiece. And that like really like totally changed my playing for the better. And so with this mouthpiece, it really did a lot of good. In my lead playing in a marching band, I was able to pop out those double B flats and double A's and stuff. But I am, all mouthpieces have like a sort of a honeymoon period. It's like it'll be great for like a few weeks, and then you'll start to notice the problems. The one thing with this is that I think it's a little bit like the tiniest bit too shallow. So it's like I'm having something I've been working on the past 2 or 3 weeks is just like, I have trouble playing a low F sharp on this. It's like my aperture's too big and I can't, I've been working on, the oral cavity, the tongue, everything, like trying to get it to where I can get that note to come out and have a good sound and just have a good sound in general. And it's really been a struggle because like, I'll warm up on my regular mouthpiece and then I'll do some work with this and I'll be able to play like, soft and like low below the staff, like really well. And then I'll play something loud and high and then try and go back to working down there. And it's like, it doesn't work, because my aperture's too big and I can't figure out like what I need to do to fix that. And I mean, like talk to Dr. Allhorn about it. But yeah, it's just, I think it might be a little bit too small for me. I don't want to blame the equipment because that's something I can fix myself, and it's done me. This has done me a lot of good, but I think I need something just tiniest bit deeper. And I have been, I thought like I've been really interested in like Monet mouthpieces. I've been watching videos about those and about how they have I can't remember what it's called, but essentially it's like these are normal mouthpieces. Dave Monet like really explains it well. It's like our normal mouthpieces, it's like an antiquated design, essentially is what he says, and that like they're meant to play on like A trumpets or lower B flat. And so, he did a demonstration where he had someone play with one of these in a trumpet, just a normal trumpet, and not adjust the pitch at all. And so played low C and it was a little sharp. He played, middle C and it was, a little bit flat. And then he played high C and it was really flat. and then he used the Monet mouthpiece, and the low C was brought down a little bit, the middle C was brought up a little bit, and the high C was brought up a lot. So he's designed these mouthpieces for modern um, trumpets, and his what he's saying is like, you know, why can't we design something better? Like, why do we have to work harder on something like this? Like, so he designed a mouthpiece that um, is it really it does the work for you. Like, you don't have to work to get those notes in tune. You can just play, and it happens. And so, whoops, I've been looking at
Good job.
I'm looking at getting one of those in the future. It's definitely a big investment, and
Yeah.
like I want to be exactly sure. Like I want to know what size. Like I don't want to get the equivalent of this and then like it not work out. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I want to say for anybody watching, like this is like just kind of general experience we have had on our own.
Yeah.
Like, so I in the beginning of the semester, I kind of just like only asked Preston what he did, and it just kind of followed what
Yeah.
he. It didn't necessarily work, so
No,
it's just
we're not experts.
yeah, it just it's
We're not
important to
experts.
realize that like what we say works for us might not necessarily work for everybody. So just like
No.
take what we say with a grain of salt. That I mean like that's what works for Preston. It definitely doesn't work for me because I tried the 40 also and it sucks. But um, yeah, but just a pointer, I guess, just to keep in the back of your head. So I kind of started playing around with lead play pieces this year too. Um, when I was in high school, my lead piece was a Yamaha 16C4, and that was also my regular jazz piece for when I played second part, and my concert piece and my marching band piece. I had one mouthpiece for everything, and I had always knew lead mouthpieces existed, but until one day, like at the start of college, I started talking to Preston. And he's like, "Yeah, try a lead mouthpiece." And so at the time, my range was like right at an E, like a high E, which is not bad for that kind of mouthpiece. Oh wow, a spam bot. Okay. Anyways, so once Preston started telling me about these lead pieces, I got one of them, which was it was a Yamaha 14A4A, and that like really it felt good for a little bit. Like Preston was saying, there is that honeymoon period, and then you start to realize that there's problems, like there's too much back pressure. So I have kind of been throwing myself around, hope not really too much. Like every few weeks I'll start to notice something wrong, and then I kind of switched. I know that's not like the ideal method of choosing a mouthpiece, but where I've been recently is I talked to Dr. Allhorn one time about what he recommends. And he recommends that I don't ask Preston about mouthpiece advice.
Yeah,
Instead,
no, I'm not an expert.
and instead, he suggested to try a Box 7E, which is a mouthpiece used for commercial playing. I don't know if it's those that Preston was talking about earlier, but that really like clicked with me. Something just like some kind of magic just happened when I played on that mouthpiece, and I'm like, wow, so this is what it feels like. And so since then, I've kind of discovered the methods for improving your range isn't playing on that mouthpiece, but playing on a regular mouthpiece. And, once you get your high register up into there on a regular mouthpiece, then you switch to your lead mouthpiece, and it's just like a whole new ballpark that you're playing in. And
Yeah,
so that's where I'm at right now. I don't, since jazz band has ended, I haven't spent a lot of time on high notes. I've just been doing like flexibility and long tones and just all the fundamentals. And I mean, the other day I still had a double G to pop out, so I mean, it's not overstating it, I guess, to say that like fundamentals is the way to go rather than like looking for a good lead mouthpiece. But lead mouthpieces do ultimately help in the end game. That's my take. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah, I think it's just the gig, you know? Like, what do you need to get you through the gig? What's going to make your life easiest? And picking what's going to make you sound right in the context of what you're playing and what's going to do that comfortably is pretty important, I think. So I mean, I don't really refer to it as like my lead piece anymore because I use it for just about everything. You know, like it's it's something that's kind of it's more like commercial. That's kind of more what it's meant for, but it was kind of custom. I had some things tweaked about it to make it really fit. And once I did that, it's like I don't really feel like I need to switch. Sometimes if I'm playing in like a combo setting, sometimes I have a 3C with a 26 backbore. It gives me a really like open, warm sound. Kind of a little bit of like fuzz on it that makes me sound, like the typical jazz trumpeter, like Miles Davis. Gives me kind of like a Miles Davis, Chet Baker kind of sound. But a lot of the time I just stick to the piece that would be considered more of a lead piece. And I think the most important thing about it is that that's one of those things that you just can't settle for. Like it can't just be, oh, this will work, because it'll hurt you. Like it'll physically cause damage to you. And I know, like Preston was talking about how I gave him that shoe lead, and like the shoe lead, it's fine and it might work great for some people. And after he gave it back to me, I actually thought it worked great for me, but I played it for like 2 days and decided that it did not work great for me. It was just that everything was great for a minute. But, after I kind of experimented with it, I found that, man, I would bottom out so fast. Like I would just get so tired. And it wasn't excess pressure. I wasn't pushing too hard. It was too shallow. I was just like, I would start hitting the cup as soon as my lips swelled the tiniest bit. And your lips are gonna swell when you get tired. Like it's something that's unavoidable. Like even the greatest players, after they play a 3-hour gig, you can see that they've been playing. That it's not unnatural. We're shoving a metal thing against our lips. It's unnatural. I don't think we as humans were created with the idea that we were going to shove a metal ring into our lips and play. I just don't think that we were designed for that. So it's strange. But dude, the mouthpiece I play now, dude, it's wonderful. I got a lot of advice last year when I was playing at the Allstate clinic, because well, first of all, it was John Faddis, so he knows what he's talking about, and I trusted him. Any advice that he gave me, I was pretty much like, yep, that's gonna do it. And dude, one of the first things he ever said to me, he was like, the mouthpiece is too small. And he hadn't looked at it, he hadn't done it, he just heard it, and he said, that mouthpiece is too small. And I was like, how do you know? And he just said, I can hear that you're having to try to make your lips fit. And after that, I realized that's why my lips would swell up. It worked for me. But as soon as I started to swell a little bit, I had to cram my lips inside to get them to vibrate. So I needed something bigger so that it was more forgiving when I naturally swelled up a little bit after playing. Because like that swelling isn't always a bad thing either. Swelling is just, you've got excess blood. And once you warm up your lips, you're getting the blood flowing in your lips. There's more blood there than usual. So you're going to swell. I mean, that's just going to happen. And so whenever my lips were warmed up, and it made it made something click in my head, because I realized that I sounded better on that mouthpiece cold than I did an hour after I started playing. And that was the big light bulb for me, that, hey, this thing's too small. I sound better cold because I fit into it cold. But once I'm warm, I don't fit anymore. And that's the problem. And so I have one now that I love 3C rims. I think that's like it just feels the best to me. And this mouthpiece I have, I don't really know how they did it, man. It's like the rim diameter of like a 5C, but it's got a pretty steep undercut. So it feels to me like I'm playing on a 3C. And then it's got like a drop V cup, so there's like no resistance. I could just blow right through it. And dude, my swelling just like went away. Well, like excess swelling. Of course I still swell, but I never finish. I'm never tired here anymore. I'm always tired like out here, which is what you want. And that's dude, I just found that like it's so important. I thought that was the answer. Finding the lead mouthpiece was the answer. Like when I was in high school, because I was obsessed with Maynard. I was obsessed with Wayne Bergeron. I was obsessed with all these cats that could do it. And I was like, well, they play on this. Like, Wayne's GR. It's like, well, there's something there. It's smaller and it's shallower. So I just kind of assumed I need to find something small and shallow that I can play on. But I was also broke. So the Bobby Shoe mouthpiece for $60 seemed pretty good to me. So I bought it, and like it did its job. It didn't work for me. I thought it did because I felt more comfortable. So I mean, it did do its job. It helped me not get tired as quickly once I started doing dumb stuff and getting in trouble. But like, now I've found that like I've kind of, now that I understand efficiency and how it works, and that I think my biggest epiphany was like, I don't physically make my lips vibrate. There is no muscular action involved there. It's the air. And the only way that you're going to make the note go higher is if you hold the hole, the aperture, the same size, and put more air through that hole. And that was the click for me. It was just like, I don't need to try. I just need to push more air through the same size hole, and physics make it go faster. And I think that like that was the light bulb moment. And then like I noticed like when I was playing on my 3C 26 back four, I just picked it up one day and I was playing Doc Severinson's A Song for You. And I went all the way through, and that's a similar setup to what Doc played. It's a 3C with a enlarged backboard. That's kind of close to what he played on. And it works. And it's all just the air is what I learned from that. And the equipment, its job is not to make you play higher. Doesn't do that. Like if someone's advertising their mouthpiece as this is going to give you a fifth on top of your range, it's not. The only way it's going to give you a fifth on top of your range is if you get it in practice. It's not going to you're not going to take it out and be Maynard Ferguson all of a sudden. Maynard Ferguson is Maynard Ferguson because he was a master with his air. Wayne Bergeron is Wayne Bergeron because he hurt his throat and figured out how to use his air. Like have you seen the interviews with him where he talks about how, he hurt himself, and if he knew what he knew now, that he wouldn't have hurt himself. And it's air. That's all it is. And
yeah,
that so many people, and I think it's the showmanship involved with being that, the solo lead player. When you come out and you're playing like MacArthur Park, any video you watch, they're leaning, they're screaming, dude, they're going for it. And that makes it look like it's muscular, but it's not, it's, there's so much refinement there. And that's why I think I'm so, even though he's not really a lead player, he can play a lead book just fine. Like Alan Vizzuti, he's so stoic. He's pure efficiency. And that's fascinating to me. I would rather watch that because I can learn more from that than I can from watching Maynard Ferguson go crazy every time he hits a double C, right? I don't learn from that.
It's kind of like, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. What's up?
I was going to say, like, this is something that, like, I've really been thinking about for a while is, like last semester, I was having a lot of trouble, like, I wasn't having a lot of trouble. I was just getting a pain in my neck whenever I would play in the upper register. And then I started learning from, like, Dr. Allhorn and watching stuff with, Wayne and Roger Ingram, talking about compression. And I started practicing those things and practicing better trumpet playing. And the pain, it went away and it was easy to do. And this is like something, this is like, I'm a little irritated by, is it's like, my first experience with like this lead high note type of playing, like I'd heard it before, but it was in 8th grade, and I came across the video with Wayne Bergeron, Eric Miyashiro, and Patrick Hessian playing Get a Fly Now. And from there, that was like a gateway to watching like Maynard and DCI and all this stuff. And so, in 8th grade, very young and impressionable, and I was like just so hooked on this type of music, and I wanted to do it so bad. I was like, oh, I want to be the high note trumpet for the Russellville Junior High School Whirlwind Marching Band. And of course, I could play a high C, which is good for, a junior high kid. But like from watching these guys, particularly I watched a lot of like Maynard Ferguson and a lot of like DCI videos and stuff, that what they're doing with their body, like contorting it and doing all this and all that, and watching I can't remember his name, but he was on the Blue Devils back in the early 2000s. I think his name
Scott Dean.
Yeah, Scott Dean. Yeah, he's crazy, but he did all that like really far leaning back stuff and all that. And like, so in junior high, that's how I thought you were supposed to do it. I thought you were supposed to like do all this and all this, and it's not how you do it. And so, I sort of had that idea in my mind, and I get to college, and Dr. Allhorn, he's a really good piccolo trumpet player, and I met Joey Tartell. He's a lead trumpet player. He's another master of efficiency. He played with Maynard, and he tours the country and plays lead trumpet. And he's a trumpet professor at Indiana Jacobs School of Music. And, watching him like at UCA play with the Boston Brass, and like they did like some big band stuff. And I remember the thing that they opened with was like this fanfare or something. It was like a Christmas fanfare or whatever. And like at the end of it, he pops off like some double C or something. And I'm just like looking around, and I was so confused. And I thought it was Jose Sabaja playing it. Because when Jose plays, you can tell like he's playing lead trumpet. He's like some people when they play a lead, it's like it's a little, it can be intense. And so, his face flushes and stuff like that. But it was Joey playing lead, and he just brought the horn up, played some double C, and then brought it down. And like that just sort of like it clicked for me then. It was like, you don't need to do all this crazy stuff to play high notes, And so, learning from him and learning from Dr. Allhorn about it, because, Dr. Allhorn plays piccolo trumpet. You can't do that stuff on a piccolo trumpet. You can't be doing all this stuff. I mean, it just has to flow freely. And so, that was something that, I guess my point here is like, it was I'm kind of a little frustrated now, because it's no one's fault but my own. But My introduction to lead trumpet playing was Maynard Ferguson, and he plays, like insane. Like inside, he's super relaxed, but he does all this for stuff for showmanship. It's like as a future music educator, like I'm going to make sure that like when I tell my students, like I'm going to introduce this type of playing to them, especially if I'm teaching jazz. Like I'm going to introduce this to them, but I'm going to be very specific. Like when you watch Maynard, or watch some of these guys, like they're not really. It's not a muscular thing. They're not working that hard. So I'm going to try and introduce them to like Louis Dowdeswell, who just puts the horn in his face, and like his embouchure is amazing. Like I mean, he doesn't change at all. It's like witchcraft. Like watching videos of him, it's like he's not even. It's like it's dubbed over. Like I don't even understand it. Like how he plays like that. He's just so relaxed, and it just happens. And introduce him to like Joey Tartell and Al Mazzuti and some of these really efficient guys. So then, their first experiences with the like when be these really relaxed players, um, and it's still like in the back of my mind, like I'm still having to work through these types of like bad habits because I was introduced to it like this, like playing like Maynard. And in all actuality, it's much easy. It's pretty easy. It's like once you get it and you start to discover these notes and learn how to play them, it's easy. Like I'm at the point now where it's like a high C feels like a C in the staff.
Yeah.
The right equipment, the right, physical setup, and lots of practice, of course. I mean, it feels easy. And so, yeah, that's my spiel.
All right, guys. We're right about at an hour. So, any last like few comments you want to leave off with?
I think a good thing to come like kind of leave off on is just to like wrap up that conversation is like the note comes first and the show comes second.
Yeah.
You hit the note, don't worry about looking cool. Once you've got the note and you've got the note, then you can try to look cool. Because I mean that's all that was. Maynard doing his thing. Sure, there's some physics there, but it's not leaning back.
Well, of course, the
You
double
see,
pump.
oh, the double pump.
That's
Yeah, dude, but the only like physical thing that makes any kind of sense is not leaning back but leaning in. Because then you're physically compressing. And I've noticed a lot of lead guys, even Wayne does that. Like he pushes his arms in and he's leaning in on himself. That's not a show. That's a part of his playing. He doesn't do that to look cool. The cats that come out like in the Blue Devils and stuff, and it's just like their lean and scream maneuver. That's just meant to look cool. That's how that guy's the screamer. He's the one playing that double G right there. And don't worry about that. If you can hit the note, people are still going to be impressed. If you're worried about impressing people, leaning 90 degrees and creating a perpendicular angle with your back is not going to impress them anymore. Right? No one is going to be like, oh my God, that guy can really play because you can create a right triangle with your body. Like, no one cares. Don't worry about it. Just worry about getting the notes out. Do whatever you need to do to get the notes out. And don't worry about imitating the guys that look cool doing it.
right.
And I think that's the way to get better.
Alrighty, guys. Well, looks like that's gonna be a wrap. We will have another episode, I'm sure, eventually. So we'll keep you updated. Alright, I'm gonna stop the stream right